I just felt like someone was staring at me or behind me. So I turned around and my son's there and I just flip out and yell at him and tell him to go back to bed. I felt awful because he started crying, ran off. Once he got back up from his nap, I looked at him and I said, "Why did you even get up? You're usually pretty good at staying in bed when I put you down for your nap." And he said that God told him to come find me. So that, yeah, that just like hit me in a
I
way
had
where,
I
yeah,
had chills.
I know. That's exactly what happened to me when it happened. I was like, "Oh God, I hear you." Because I claimed to be a Christian, but I was super hypocritical. I was doing this for 17 years. If I was having any sort of negative emotion, I went to pornography to relieve it. And then I'd, ask for forgiveness and say, "I'm sorry, I won't do it again." But then I kept doing it and kept doing it. And I hated myself for it. But then at the same time, I was also judging the people in the video as saying, "Oh, they're horrible, dirty people." But I'm looking at it and I'm feeling like a horrible, dirty person too, because I'm watching it and I'm also judging them. So I felt like a horrible Christian. I wanted to be done with this. It was sucking the life out of me. It gave me unhealthy expectations of a relationship, of sexual encounters, all these things. Like it was bad. And I wanted to be done, but I could not do it myself. And God did that for me through my son because that kind of started the process. And that night I just cried for I don't know how long. Like I couldn't fall asleep at all that night. And my husband woke up and he asked what was wrong. So I told him for the first time ever, I had admitted that I had an addiction to pornography.
Welcome to Your Wordless podcast, the space where we redefine success, self-worth, and transformation. I am Nick Yaras, the soul-centered architect of transformation, helping you unlock your highest potential and build a legacy beyond limits. Now, whether it is self-mastery, career breakthroughs, or wealth creation, this is where change begins. Now let's dive in.
Thank you for having me.
So Anna, okay, tell us, what was it like growing up as an Anna Murby?
Well, I grew up in a Christian home. I always say that I started going to church when I was in a car seat as a little baby. And I grew up knowing everything, had knowledge, knew all the Bible stories because I had been going since a child, but I never really felt close to God until I was going through my second divorce at 30 years old. That's when I really felt like I could trust God and that I could make my relationship with Him my own. Before that, I was just doing everything for everyone else. It was being more of a chameleon and just doing what people wanted me to do because I didn't want anyone to be upset with me. I didn't want to make waves. I didn't want to hurt anybody. So I was a big people pleaser. I still have remnants of that now that I'm working through, and it is not easy to do. But it was toxic to the point that I was doing it because I didn't know who I was. I'm just now figuring out who I am, like me, aside from being a mom, a wife, a podcaster, a writer. Like, who am I? Who does God see me as? I'm just now figuring that out, and I'm in my 40s. I was definitely very insecure, didn't have direction other than what I was told you should do. I didn't think for myself. And once I accepted Christ into my heart at 30 years old, I started making my life my own instead of just going off of what everyone told me. I searched for why do I want to believe in Christ? Not why was I supposed to or told to, but why do I want to do these things? And that's one of the reasons why I started the podcast too.
Wow, we went right in. So there's so many things that I want to peel there, right? So
Mhm.
you mentioned the between these two or growing up to your when you were 30 years old, you were doing all the things that people wanted you to do. So What are these things? Like,
Well, it would depend on who the person was. For instance, my grandparents watched me, my brother, and our three cousins. They were instrumental in our growing up. My two older cousins always fought with each other, like always. Them and my brother would get in trouble the most with our grandparents. I was a quiet observer and would notice that, if you do these kind of things, you get in trouble. Maybe I shouldn't be doing these things. So I just, if someone asked me to do something, I would do it without being told because I didn't want to get in trouble. My mom said that some of her friends would say, I'm so jealous. Your teenager puts herself to bed, she cleans up her room. She's such a good girl. Like that's just what I strive to be, was a good girl. So for my parents, I didn't want to lie to them because I would get physically ill to the point where I couldn't eat. I'd feel that guilty about whatever I did that I knew I shouldn't have done. And then I'd go and I'd tell my parents because I needed to relieve that burden. I needed to feel better. So I just put so much effort into making sure that I was whoever that person I was with needed me to be. I even did some things in my older years when I was in my 20s and I was finally on my own after my first divorce from an abusive man. I was finally on my own. I could do what I wanted. My parents weren't telling me what to do. My ex-husband wasn't telling me what to do. And I just went hard on binge drinking and sleeping around. I did things that I knew were wrong spiritually, but I still did them because I wanted to be me and be what I thought I wanted to be. I was a mom. I should have been a better mom at that point, but I was too self-focused. But that was the first time and probably the only time where I really put myself first, I guess. It kind of backfired on me as I made a whole bunch of bad choices. But it was just, I finally felt like I could do something that I wanted to do. But in the end, I was still doing for others because I would want to be whatever the person I was looking for acceptance from. I wanted to be what they wanted me to be so I could feel acceptance and feel love from the guy that I was with or whoever I was hanging out with. I was always searching for love and I was doing it the wrong way because I was trying to be what that person wanted rather than just being myself and having someone love me for who I am.
and how has that definition of being yourself changed now?
I am secure in who I am in Christ. It's been a long
Talk to us
struggle.
about your journey.
That was a big one that needed to get out of the way. God's been working on my selfish heart, realizing just how selfish I've been all these years, and it's changed my perspective of being a mom because one of the issues that I was having was bitterness and anger because I didn't even know if I wanted to be a mom. It was just one of the things I was raised. This is what you do. If you're going to sleep with someone before you get married, you have to marry that person. Like these were just the things that I grew up with. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Her mom was a stay-at-home mom. My grandma on my dad's side, this is just like the traditions that my family had. And that was all I ever wanted to do. But I didn't actually take the time to figure out why those were the things that I wanted to do. That's just the way that I was taught, is that you get married, you have kids, and you raise them, which is a good, noble thing to do, but you should know why you're doing it. Otherwise, you're going to have troubles, which is what I had. And I was bitter and I was angry that I had to share my time between my kids and my husband. And I have 5 kids. So I really had to share my time plus my husband. So whenever I didn't get to write or I didn't get to watch this or I didn't get to sit for more than 5 minutes before I had to get up for something, all that bitterness was just inside of me, made me so angry. And a very personal situation happened for me during December of last year of 2024. And God really used that situation to open my eyes to see just how seriously toxic my selfish bitterness and unforgiveness was. And I just, I surrendered. I said, I'm sorry. This is not right. Whatever I thought, whatever was, I can't change that. I am a mom and I've been told I'm a good mom, which always made me feel guilty about because I never felt like a good mom because in the back of my head, I always felt like, did I even want to be one? Well, it doesn't matter at this point. I am a mom. I have an 18-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 2-year-old. I'm going to be a mom for a while. I've been a mom for a while. I have to accept that. So I finally accepted that, and it has gotten rid of a lot of my anger issues, which was another problem. And the way that I masked those anger issues and relieved the tension of the anger or all the negativity was with my pornography addiction. So God had freed me from that for many years now, but it was back when I was pregnant with my third child. That's when he healed me from it. I was having a bad day. I don't even know what happened, but I took my 4-year-old and I told him he has to go to bed, take your nap early, kind of a thing. And I went in my room and I'm scrolling through, videos or whatever, trying to find what I can use to relieve the tension of the day. And I just felt like someone was staring at me or behind me. So I turned around and my son's there and I just flip out and yell at him and tell him to go back to bed. I felt awful because he started crying, ran off. Once he got back up from his nap, I looked at him and I said, "Why did you even get up? You're usually pretty good at staying in bed when I put you down for your nap." And he said that God told him to come find me. So that,
Wow.
yeah, that just like hit me in a
I
way
had
where,
I
yeah,
had chills.
I know. That's exactly what happened to me when it happened. I was like, "Oh God, I hear you." Because I claimed to be a Christian, but I was super hypocritical. I was doing this for 17 years. If I was having any sort of negative emotion, I went to pornography to relieve it. And then I'd, ask for forgiveness and say, "I'm sorry, I won't do it again." But then I kept doing it and kept doing it. And I hated myself for it. But then at the same time, I was also judging the people in the video as saying, "Oh, they're horrible, dirty people." But I'm looking at it and I'm feeling like a horrible, dirty person too, because I'm watching it and I'm also judging them. So I felt like a horrible Christian. I wanted to be done with this. It was sucking the life out of me. It gave me unhealthy expectations of a relationship, of sexual encounters, all these things. Like it was bad. And I wanted to be done, but I could not do it myself. And God did that for me through my son because that kind of started the process. And that night I just cried for I don't know how long. Like I couldn't fall asleep at all that night. And my husband woke up and he asked what was wrong. So I told him for the first time ever, I had admitted that I had an addiction to pornography. I had never said it out loud. I had never said it to anybody. I had never admitted it to myself that that's what that was. But I did that night. And from that night on, I told him, "You have access to my passwords. You have my passcodes on my phone. You can look at whatever you need to whenever you need to." I told him, I told my parents, I told my friends, I told people at church. Like I just told everybody because I figured the more people who know, the more accountable I'm going to be. And the more I'm not going to want to do this because people know. And I cut myself off cold turkey from looking at that stuff. I did nothing. Like I wouldn't be on my computer after a certain hour of the day. If I was alone, I wouldn't be on my computer. I didn't watch anything higher than a PG rating, and I listened to only Christian music for a while. And I had to do that. I just had to detox myself. And that was the best way I could think to do it, was just to stop it immediately. And after a year and a half, there was a ministry that I was not working with, but I was listening to their work for people who suffer with pornography addictions. And they had a ministry opportunity that they do where they go to porn conventions and they share the gospel. They'll hand out Bibles, they'll hand out shirts that say Jesus loves porn stars, and they'll just talk to people about the gospel in a booth at a porn convention. And I always thought that was amazing and cool, and I wanted to do that. So you had to be at least a year sober. So I worked on that, and I was. And then you had to raise the money to go. And I went to the one they had in New Jersey. I was nervous, very nervous, because before that, I had not seen any pornography for a year and a half at that point. So I was like, what is going to happen to me if I see all this stuff? So we went into the exhibit And as soon as they open the doors, everything's there for you to view. There's people on computers, there's naked people walking around, there's awkward booths, like all the stuff is there. And the only thing that happened to me is I started crying and I felt broken and I felt like I realize why we're here. These people need hope. There's something here that is dark and depressing. I just felt sad for everybody. And I wanted to jump up onto the table and share the good news of the gospel with everybody and share how much Jesus loves them. Like there was no hate, there was no disgust, there's no turn on, nothing that I thought was going to happen happened. I just felt broken and like an extreme love for these people as if it was God's love inside of me, showing me that I care about them too. And from that moment on, I had not wanted or ever looked at pornography again. Like he literally set me free from my pornography addiction at a porn convention, which I think is amazing. And I can't take credit for any of that.
Are you stuck in a job that you don't love, feeling like you're meant for more? It is not in your head, it is in your soul. I am Nick Nieras, and I help high achievers like you break free from burnout, rewire self-doubt, and build a life aligned with purpose through coaching, hypnotherapy, and soul activation. Because let's face it, real wealth isn't just about money, it is about a aligned and happy heart, mind, and soul. Now, remember, you are worthy and you are enough. Let's transform your life together. Visit www.thenicknieras.holisticlifestyle.com to begin. Wow. I just wanted to say thank you for being so transparent and vulnerable with your story, because not a lot of people would want to admit that they're actually addicted, or they don't even know they're addicted
Yeah.
to pornography, right? Like, because there is a definition about an addiction, like how you become addicted, but there are also people who like binge watch on pornography
Yeah.
because they just want to release that. But then
That was me for sure. I could go months without seeing any of it and be totally fine, and then 1 minute I crash hard and I'm watching it for like 2 months at a time, and then I could go another 2, 3 months, be fine, and then there it is again. Yeah.
right. Oh, okay. So the point where you said you actually found God was the God's grace upon you was when your son saw you on the screen, scrolling through the screen. Like, what was your husband's response to that?
I love this man. He never checked up on me. He understood what I said, and having in the past had his own issue with it and overcome it. I think he could understand. So he just trusted that when I said I was done with this and that you have all access, he just trusted that and he believed that. And he supported me, he prayed for me, he was there for me. And when I went on this mission trip, he was praying for me while he was back home with the kids. He supported me even though he wasn't sure he wanted me to go on it. And you know, there was some tension between us that made me had to leave the ministry thing earlier because Satan was doing a little bit of his, issues too and trying to put a wedge between us. So I went home early because of it. But he's been very supportive. He still trusts that I'm not looking at that. But he also knows that if he needs to at any point in time, he can just pick up my phone and look, and will he see something? No. But I've also been very transparent and honest with him about everything too, because I want him to know that he can trust me because I've made some terrible mistakes. And actually, on our first date, I actually told him about my past as well, everything. And because at that point I had two little kids and, we were both older and it was after my second divorce. So I'm like, I don't have time to waste hiding things. Here it all is. If you don't like it, leave now. You won't bother me. But yeah, so I've been working on being honest with him our whole marriage. So it's been almost 11 years.
See, I love that. I could feel that was Christ just enveloping his arms around you and your family. Do you have people that you coach through this addiction, or you do it through your podcast?
it does come up in various talks that I have on the podcast. Parts of my story will show up. I have been doing it a lot more when I guest on everybody's show because that's the one thing they really want to talk about because a lot of women don't talk about it. It seems like a really shameful and embarrassing thing because this is supposed to be a man's problem, not a woman's problem. But,
Yes.
it's becoming a woman's problem too, and it's because we aren't talking about it. So I'm happy to go on anyone's podcast and talk about this if they're willing to talk about it. So that's mostly where I do a lot of the ministering. I would love to actually minister somebody, like either somebody local or online and just help them. I have done that once, but it's been a while. But yeah, I would absolutely love to help a woman out who's going through it.
Well, we're doing it through this podcast, so I hope
Mhm.
anybody listening through this, they don't have to be ashamed of themselves. I think when you're ready, the way appears. And for me, I believe in the message. And the message could be through this podcast right now, the very
Mhm.
topic. If something stirred you within your soul and that you should reach out, then probably this is the sign. So thank you, Anna, for sharing that story of yours. So okay, you have been divorced twice. Now you're on your
Mhm.
third marriage. There's a question here. Why do you think
Yeah.
you're able to speak on having a good marriage? Hi, I'm Nick Nieras, your host of the Your Wordless podcast. Now, if these real raw stories hit home, don't wait. Please follow, like, and subscribe my Spotify and YouTube. For bite-sized inspirational reels, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Don't wait. Your transformation starts today. Thank you, and bye for now.
I wrote it that way because that's how people think. You tell them, "Oh, I've been married twice. Let me tell
It's like
you
it's a
what you can
yeah.
do to have a good marriage." They'll be like, "Really? You? I don't think so." But I think, obviously, I don't think that's how it should be. I feel like you should, if you can, first of all, I would go to someone who's been married to the same person for a very long time because they've had that seasoned life. They understand everything, but I think you can also go to somebody who's had failed marriages, who is currently having a healthy, successful one. That's the key. You need to go to them as well because they have a story to tell as well. And, you may be on that trajectory and you don't know it. Like with my second divorce, I didn't see it coming. I should have. Now that I, can look back on it, I can see the red flags and I see that it was going to happen, but it came out of nowhere for me. I was not expecting it. It was only 2 years that we were married and he was just done, but I see it now. So, in order to have a healthy marriage, at least in my opinion, I've realized that I needed to have God at the center of my marriage and I needed to be honest. That is something that I have never been in any of the other two marriages. Was honest. I did devious things. They did devious things. We weren't honest with each other. I didn't even know who I was. So I definitely wasn't honest. I was being everything for everyone else. And I was bitter and angry and holding on to things. You can't hold on to things. You have to learn how to love the person unconditionally. And the only way you can really understand that love is when you understand the love of Christ, because he loves us unconditionally and he wants the best for us. So we should want that for our spouse. And in order to, see that I had to go through a couple painful divorces and realize just how selfish I was as a mom. I mean, being divorced twice is not ideal for anybody. Nobody wants that. It's not easy raising kids and then having the kid's father involved while they also have a stepfather. And our children, they have different dads and they get that. They understand. They're a little older now, so they kind of understand the situation. My son, my second oldest, sees his father every single week, like the whole school week, and then he sees him on the weekend because his dad picks him up. He's local. My eldest lives with her dad right now, and we still talk, we still hang out, we still respect each other. We got to do what we got to do. We're raising children together. It's not easy at all. And it takes a real strong step parent to take on that role of being someone else's parent too when the other parent is involved. So we have a lot of challenges that we've been able to overcome. And I think that's another reason why we can speak into how to have a healthy marriage is because a lot of times third marriages don't survive. But I'm going on almost 11 years, praise God, because I'm doing
Amen.
it the right way. So, in order to do it the right way, you have to know what to do. And sometimes we get a bad rap because we've been divorced. But God works through everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. He works through it all and He does what He needs to. And maybe you have red flags in your life, but you don't see them. But talking to me, talking to someone else who's divorced, who's doing it right now and doing it successfully now, that might help you not go through something that we went through the hard way. Maybe it'll bring to light something you're like, you know what? I see that red flag in my life right now. Maybe I should do something about it before it becomes a situation. Yeah.
What are these red flags, Anna? Can you share with us?
Well, definitely infidelity was one, unfortunately, that I was involved with my first relationship. Technically, when I think about it, it was both of them because pornography, I think, is a form of infidelity because you're thinking about someone else, you're doing something with somebody else. It's like an intimate encounter. And that is a problem that can create a big wedge in your relationship. And that's one of the things that happened between my second husband and I, for sure, and the first marriage as well. I mean, we didn't communicate. That is definitely something you have to do, is communicate. That is something that I never did because I didn't want to make waves. I didn't want to hurt anybody. I wanted to make everything nice and calm and like confrontation. I still don't, but I've gotten out of that. You have to communicate. You just have to, whether you really want to or not, you have to push yourself to communicate. If you're having a bad day and your spouse is the reason you're having a bad day, they need to know that. And you need to tell them in a respectful and loving way, hey, I'm having a bad day. This is why. A situation like that happened with my husband and I semi recently. I was upset with him all day. And then he came home from work and he was talking to me and I said, I can't talk to you right now because I'm still angry. So I'm doing some vacuuming. I need to calm down and then I'll talk to you. So then he came back a little later and I expressed why I was upset, but I didn't do it out of emotions, deep emotion and anger, because nothing healthy is going to come from that. I waited a little bit and then I told him why I was upset and we worked through it. And it's okay to have some of these conversations in front of your kids because one of my kids was around at the time. And they need to see how you can have a healthy argument and fix that in a healthy way. If your parents are never arguing in front of you, you're going to think they're perfect and that they never argue. And then when you start arguing in your marriage, you're going to wonder what's wrong with you because your parents never argued. They were perfect. They never did that. Why am I doing that? But they did. They just hid it from you. And you never got to see how they had a healthy argument and resolved things and came back together. So that's another red flag, is you definitely don't want to never argue in front of them. And you got to have healthy arguments. You got to be honest and open and vulnerable and communicate and put God first, because when you put God first, everything else is a little easier to handle. It's not going to be easy, but when the difficulties come, you know that you can trust Him. I've gone through a lot of things in my life where I realize the only one I can truly trust is God. My worth is not in what my husband thinks of me, it's in what God thinks of me. And that's another big thing that has changed in my heart and my mind, because I always put my worth in everything for everyone else. And you can't do that when you are married and you want a successful marriage. You have to give 100%. They have to give 100%. And then you let God do the rest.
And now you're where you are right now, looking towards your parents, your grandmother, your grandparents from both sides, did you think that they hid something from you very well that you thought that that was how marriages should be?
No, no,
Like
my
I like to process like when something happens to me and then I'm like I'm going through the healing journey and I'm like, "Oh, so if I felt this way and I've seen things, now I'm seeing things in a different light. So they're in that situation, but does that mean that they never had problems
mm,
like what I just faced, or they're just
yeah.
good in, I don't know, masking, or they resolve it not in front of me?"
My parents got divorced when I was 12, so they argued and fought a lot. So I think that's where I started my journey of arguing and fighting a lot. They did not have a healthy marriage. My dad didn't really talk too much, and my mom was extremely emotional and looking for love in all the wrong places, kind of a mentality, which is what I had while I was going through my searching for a husband phase. As for my paternal grandparents, they're deceased now, but when we were
Sorry.
being, thank you. When we were younger, I don't really remember them arguing too much. My grandpa was very sweet and very funny, and I'm not entirely sure if my grandma 100% appreciated it the way she probably should have, because he was a little more on the goofy side and she was not quite that way. But they seemed to get along a lot. You could tell that they loved each other, but I felt like my grandpa maybe, I don't want to say loved her more. I think they just had two different ways because they're Hispanic and they were like from Mexico, Hispanic. So they were,
Wow.
yeah. So I think she just had a different way of showing it because she would get irritated with them sometimes, but
I can
you could
almost
tell
imagine
that
it.
she loved, and they'd been together for a long time. And yeah, as for my maternal grandparents, they divorced a long time ago too. And my maternal grandma is deceased now. My grandpa is on his fourth marriage. So there's been divorce in my family for a long time, and it's stemmed from, like, I can see where it stemmed from now is just a lot of selfishness, a lot of lack of communication, no real unconditional love. We weren't putting God first. We thought we were, we thought if just going to church was good enough. It's like there's so much that could have been done to fix all these things, but it is what it is. It's the way that it is now. I mean, I have a great stepmom, I have a great stepdad, and I have a good relationship with my mom and my dad. Oh, yeah.
Of that. And what does it look like? What does it mean having God as the center of everything, especially in your marriage?
It means everything you do flows from him. You trust him for everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. You ask him for help when you can't do things. You have to be willing to admit that you can't do things on your own. There's certain things maybe we can do because he's given us the gifts and the abilities to do, but we need to remember that everything we have on this earth is borrowed from him. He's been gracious enough to give us these things to hold on to for however long we're here on this earth. And remembering that your kids are a gift from God. They're not burdens, they're gifts from God, which I was treating them almost like burdens most of the time because I felt like they were sapping from me what I wanted to do. But you can't be selfish when you're following Christ because you have to look at what he did on the cross for all of us. That is definitely not selfish. He died on the cross for all of us because we needed saving so that we could be right with God and be with him in eternity when we ask him into our heart. That is completely unselfish. And that's the kind of attitude we should want to have for our spouse, for our kids, for serving God. We should want to serve him because we love him so much. We know how much he loves us. So putting God first means when you do that, everything else you know how to handle because you are focused on him and you love like him, which means you're going to be more willing to do for your spouse what you wouldn't be personally willing to do because you're filled up with the Holy Spirit and what he's wanting you to do. So you have to put him in the center and understand, okay, so this is what I want to do, but my kids want me to spend time with them. What would benefit in the long run? Spending time with your kids, they need to know that you love them. So you put them first because that's what God would do. He would put them first and not in a, oh, I'm never able to have my own time sort of way. There's a time and a place where we can have that relaxing time where we need that mental break. I'm an introvert, so I need to have that alone time sometimes. So there's times where I'll tell my kids, Mom needs a timeout. I'll be back. Go play. I'll be back and I'll be better. You have to know your boundaries. You have to know your limits, but you also have to keep in mind what it is that God wants us to do. And in order to do that, you have to be reading the Bible because he says how a spouse should love another spouse, how you should treat your kids, and how the kids should treat you. And when you learn all that, then it becomes easier to handle everything. It doesn't make everything easy, but you have the tools necessary to work on that because your mindset has changed from being super focused on yourself and your needs to thinking about others and their needs. And then God, because he's in the center of everything you're doing, he will meet the needs that you have.
Wow, that felt like a sermon. Thank you. And thank you. Wow, I feel so refreshed. Wow. Okay. Oh, that's this question. In hopes that your children will not go down the same path you did, do you share any of your past with them?
Yes, I do. My eldest is 18 right now, and she currently is going through a season of prodigal child as well, pretty much like what I did. And I have just made it very clear that I love her very much and I'm here for you when you need me. I don't overly preach to her if she wants to talk about God or anything or wants me to pray for her. I will. But I have told her about my past with pornography and I've told her about other things. And I've just been very open and honest with my kids. My two oldest ones know about my pornography addiction because my 13-year-old unfortunately was introduced to some of it when he was in 5th grade from a friend. So it kind of got thrust upon me to have to bring it up to him. My younger ones, they don't quite know about it yet because they're only 8 and 5 and 2. But we do have some books in the house that teach about safe boundaries and what are good pictures and bad pictures. And those are actually books that are tailored towards younger kids on pornography without actually just calling it pornography. So those are good books that we have. And I mean, I tell my kids, even the younger ones, I tell them things that are necessary at, their age range, but I don't go into a whole bunch of detail depending on the child because there's certain things they don't need to know. Um, like I've had to learn how to call their body parts their actual names, like their scientific names, because I never grew up hearing those things. All of it just sounded dirty and sounded awkward and was just a thing that I never thought that I needed to talk about because that's just how I grew up is that you don't talk about those things. So you don't talk about sex. It's a dirty word. And it always made me uncomfortable. And still to this day, I can't say the words without either giggling or feeling weird when I'm telling them, you need to clean this or don't touch that, like I have to call the body parts what they are. And the reason I did that is because I was listening to a podcast a long time ago, and they were talking about if someone were ever to abuse your children, they need to be able to tell you what
Where?
happened to them
Yeah.
and where. And if you're giving them silly nicknames or whatever, they're not going to understand. They're not going to be able to convey the message that you need them to. And that was just like a mind blow for me. I was like, uh-oh, I got to get out of my own uncomfortableness and start calling it what it is. So I've been working on that and it's not easy, but only my two oldest know why I'm doing that. I don't think I've mentioned it to my 8-year-old yet, but she's very advanced in some of the things she asks. She asks a lot of deep theological questions. It was probably only a matter of time before she wonders why everything. But yeah, I do try to tell them things because I don't want them to have to go through what I went through. My eldest is just like me, very headstrong, and she wants to do what she wants to do. So she's like, yeah, I heard about why you shouldn't do this, or I know what happened to you, but it won't happen to me. Like, that's just the way that she is. So I'm like, okay, well, I love you. You go through this. And when you're ready to stop, I'll be here for you.
I love that. Yeah, I have my youngest sister is 12 too. So they're also learning about reproductive system and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
parts. And just before this interview, I have this stack of cards where it's the drinking cards, like do or drink, right? So she was reading some of the stacks, and some of it were like quite not X-rated, but things that are there's some questions like told her, don't, you can look at them, but then she picked up one card and she asked me this, what is anal?
No.
But and it said it's a body part, and I started going on this road of explaining that you've learned about intercourse, right? Yeah, we learned that in school. Okay, so but it's a different part. So it's like he gave me this very disgusted look, and I'm like, okay, I know this is a shock for you right now, but I guess this is why I'm here, because I used to be away from home. I just moved back in to my
Hmm.
parents' place last year. I in hindsight, I think this is also part of the reason why, because my parents, they're a bit older now, in the 50s and 60s, and
Hmm.
with my youngest sister, she's there are a lot of things that my parents were stricter on me and my second sister about, but they cannot be like that towards her anymore because of the age and
Yeah.
take care of their health and etc. So I it felt to me like I had to step up and actually
Hmm.
show her, because I went through my own divorce. So at 20, I had my divorce 2019, so just 2 years with him. And
Hmm.
I've been on that healing journey myself. So now is the, I think, sixth year in.
Hmm.
And so this is why I also started my own podcast, because I wanted to see if people could resonate with me, or just to let me know that I am not insane. Like,
Hmm.
why me?
Yeah.
And
No,
it
I
has
get
been a
that.
wonderful, yeah, and
Yeah.
it has been very, not only it's therapeutic, but it's like the messages that I needed to hear, like from God, they also come from my guests. So like today,
Hmm.
there's some points that you made really made sense to me, and I needed to heed those advice. So thank you.
Hmm.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
take it to the Lord tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. So Anna, what are you working on currently?
Well, I'm trying to figure out exactly what I'm going to do with my next season of the podcast. I have an idea. I just have to flesh it out more and streamline it so that it's an actual idea. And I'm also still working on some novels that I'm writing whenever I get a chance, which is not nearly as often as I'd like, for one, because I've got less time. Also, because I broke my elbow for my 40th birthday. Oh,
No.
I know. It was like 2 days before. And because of that, occasionally my arm will get numb if I have it bent for a certain amount of time. It's not that serious of an issue, but sometimes it affects how long I can write. So there's different factors of why I don't write as often, but I have been doing a lot more of it lately. I realized that I was stretching myself too thin with a lot of different things, to the point that I was feeling overwhelmed and depressed because I hadn't had any time to write. And that's where I feel really close with God, is when I'm writing. So I was like, I can't not do this anymore. What am I going to do? And then I listened to a podcast about how they were talking about making theme weeks, and like every day was a theme of what they would do on that day and that day. I was like, okay, I can do that. So I took a break during the summer so that I could focus myself on what am I going to do to make the podcast better? What am I going to do to give myself more time with my family? And what am I going to do to give myself more time for the things that I want to do that I feel like I should be doing? So that's kind of what I'm working on, is trying to find a better balance of everything so that I'm not feeling stretched thin in one way or another, and I'm not getting bitter or frustrated about anything. 'Cause I don't want to do that. I love podcasting and I don't want to feel like I need to cut it
Like
off
it's a
because it's a burden. Yeah. Yeah.
right. Yeah. And I think, yeah, so something came up just now. It's, I think, what is your take on being balancing
Mm.
between tending to your needs and tending to the needs of others, especially your family?
That is definitely something I'm still working on, especially now that my mind is clear to the point where I can't put myself first when I have a family. I need to make sure that I am mentally healthy, of course. So, what I do, at least for my own sanity, what I do is I get up early every day anyways. I'm usually up between 6 or 6:30 because my kids will either get me up or my body's just used to it by now. And I will lay in bed for a little bit and I'll try to pray before I either fall asleep again or, before one of my kids comes and interrupts it. So I'll pray for a little bit and thank God for being alive and the breath that I have. And then if I have time, I will read the Bible just a little bit. I don't read like a whole section or whatever because I'm trying to be more realistic. In the mornings, I don't always have that kind of time. So I just read something so that I have that mindset of God comes first. And then I will turn on some worship music, some Christian music, and get ready for my day and go make my kids lunch. That's usually how I try to start my morning because I notice if I start my morning focusing on God, then I'm better during the whole day. If I just get up and I start going and doing things, then I can see the difference. I'm more cranky, I'm more frustrated, I feel like something's missing, and I just feel completely different. So I try to do that as often as I can. Some days vary on, do I get to pray one word before I have to get up? Maybe I forgot to pray that morning because I had something that absolutely needed to be done that morning. Maybe I forgot to read my Bible, didn't listen to any of the, Christian music. I give myself grace for that now. Whereas before I would have said, oh, well, God's going to hate me now because I didn't do this, or my day is going to be ruined because he's going to punish me for it. That's not what he's like. I give myself the grace. I understand that he realizes that I was having a busy day. He gets it. And I try somewhere in my life to make that effort to either be praying all day, to maybe think and meditate on a Bible verse, something that I have memorized, listen to a podcast, put on Christian music. I just try to make it up somewhere if I miss my chance in the morning. But as for my podcasting routine, what I always do, at least before an interview, is I'm always praying that God would help me with whoever I'm speaking to, and that whatever I say would give him the glory, that I wouldn't say or do whatever he didn't want me to. And I do that before I guest on anyone's podcast as well. And I usually I try to be good about it, but I also try to pray with my guests when they come on my show. Like before we even start recording, I pray with them as well. And that helps me keep the mindset of everything. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, I pray. I'm just constantly in prayer. That's what helps me stay focused and on track and give me the ideas that I need. Is I keep reminding myself that I am not really the host, I'm the co-host, and God is my host because he's giving me this opportunity to do this podcast, to write. I always ask that whatever he wants me to write when I'm writing a novel, that it would be what he wants. And if he doesn't want it, to make it clear to me that this is not in the story, that this is not what's going to be here. And he usually is pretty good about it. It's called writer's block.
Yes, there you
Yeah.
go. When you were saying those last few words, something happened to me 2 days back. So, I was talking to this person and you were already saying that, okay, I want to guess, I want you to be a guest on my show. But because he lives far away, and I said, okay, I feel like we could do it in person. It would be more effective. And I thought that it was understood. And then we were talking, and then just on Friday, I think, or on Sunday, he said to me very casually, in a jokingly manner, he said, and I was a guest on a podcast yesterday. Don't get jealous. And I don't know why, but I kind of know why I felt I actually cried
Hmm.
because this was something, though I have been hosting people, but it was something like I kind of treated it as like sacred, and the topic that he was talking about has nothing to do with his business. And he teaches people, he
Hmm.
teaches, he homes, schools them, and he has a business. So he hires freelancers, tutors to teach the students and neurodivergent kids. And I feel that
Cool.
that's very aligned to the it's like a ministry of his own ministry, and I wanted
Yeah.
him to be invited into my own ministry as well. And so when he said that, I felt somehow betrayed, number one. But number two, I kind of I tried digging into why. Is it because I have feelings towards him and I felt jealous?
Hmm.
Mm, then I said, okay, the host was a girl, not an issue to me. But when I dug deeper, it was because he should have at least told me that he was going to go for that interview.
Hmm.
And I would have felt, I, why on earth would I stop you from, going on an interview? I just wish that you would have said that to me, but I didn't tell that to him just
Yeah.
yet. And then you were saying about communication, and which I think I will do after this. Let me sit and do that. But I think the whole point I'm trying to say here is the fact that he wasn't aware, and his topic that he was talking about was his views on dating abroad,
Hmm.
dating people of different cultures, because he works
Yeah.
abroad very, very frequently.
Yeah.
And then he went into kink, he told me. And I'm like, inside, inside my
I
head,
could
I'm like,
see why you'd be a
dude,
little like,
yeah,
what?
yeah. And as much as I try, because I'm now also very honest with God, and I prayed to God. I said, if there's something it's about to develop here, if it's for my highest good, then okay, make way for
Hmm.
this relation of friendship right now. But then this happened,
Hmm.
and I kind of want to ask God, and I think this is one of his messages is trying to tell me, maybe just be honest what you feel. Because I did tell him I was a little bit jealous,
Yeah.
but yeah, but I didn't tell him the whole premise to why I felt jealous. And
Yeah.
I would have just appreciated if you told me earlier.
Yeah.
And then his response to me was, I struggled to see what in my mind, because a friend needed help, like their guest dropped out, and she reached out, and I helped her with that. So it
Hmm.
wasn't the greatest conversation, but it did help the whole team. So I was like, yeah, but at the time, because I couldn't comprehend that, but yeah,
Yeah.
maybe after this. So I just felt compelled to share that with you, Anna. So thank you. um so what is your wait, hang on. Before we move into that question even. A self-worth question here for you, Anna. How do you define self-worth?
I find my worth in what God thinks of me. I did a whole bunch of terrible things when I chose to walk away from Christ in my mid 20s. I did some things where I could have easily been in jail for them, but He was gracious enough to not give me what I deserved. He loved me through many different issues that I had, and He continued to pursue me even after I looked Him not literally in the face, but said, you know what, God, I know that you're trying to talk to me, but I don't care. I'm still going to do what I want to do. And instead of turning his back on me like I was turning my back on him, he continued to pursue me. He continued to show me that he loved me and that he had plans for me and my future and that he wasn't willing to give up. And because of that, I realized the depth of his love for me, and I can't imagine not loving him back. And because of that, feel really loved. I feel like I belong somewhere, and I feel like I'm his child, and I don't need to find my worth in anyone else because his love is all that matters to me.
All glory to God. Amen. What is your heart's greatest wish?
My heart's greatest wish is to see all my children stay close to Christ. I really don't want them to go through anything I went through. I definitely want to see my eldest come back and be healthy, mentally healthy, and physically healthy, and financially healthy. I want to see all my kids grow up and love God and find, the love of their life and start their own families and see all the fruits of the seeds that I've been sowing for their futures.
If you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening in the world as your legacy, what would it be?
I go with the Bible verse that I learned when I was trying to overcome my addiction to pornography, which is Proverbs 4:23. Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life.
Put your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. What a way to wrap our interview today, Anna. You have been wonderful. You have been splendid. You have been amazing. How can people reach out to you if any of this is, resonating?
Yeah. They can go to honestchristianconversations.com. They can find the podcast. There's different areas where they can either look at my books, they can contact me if they have prayer requests. And yeah, everything's on the website.
Any last message before we wrap this up?
God loves you and he died for you. He wants to see you healthy and redeemed and free from the bondage of whatever you feel is holding you down. Allow him to take control and just surrender. Let him do what he wants to do to help you and see what happens.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Well, that is a wrap on today's inspiring episode with Anna Murby. Thank you, Anna, for the work that you do, continuing to uplift the world around you and others as well. For listeners, this has been Your Wordless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. If you've ever felt wordless, remember you are not alone. Your soul chose to be here, to matter. And for that reason alone, you are worthy. A huge thank you to you again, Anna, and to all of you for listening. Until next time, I am Nick Nieras. Keep shining, keep growing, and always remember you are worthy and you are enough. See you in the next episode. Thank you, Anna, for your time.
Thank you.
And cut. Good morning, Anna. How are you doing today?
I am good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for asking, and thank you so much for saying yes to be interviewed on my show. And today, I'd like to introduce myself to you formally and to all of our listeners tuning in for the first time and our returning subscribers. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled Your Wordless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. So today we're going to talk about some honest conversation, and we have Anna Murby here with us. Anna is a wife, a stay-at-home mom of 5, also a fellow podcaster, host of the of Honest Christian Conversations, and a fiction writer. Now, when she's not writing or podcasting, she plays Fortnite with her family, studies Russian language, and watch old TV shows with her husband. Now, welcome to the show, Anna. Love this episode? Now, transformation doesn't end here. Head on to at holistic.lifestyle_with_Nick. That is on my Instagram. Or head on to my website, www.denigneraswholisticlifestyle.com for more info on my coaching framework, which is the Worthy, Authentic, and Abundant Framework, digital guides, and my upcoming events such as retreats and master classes and workshops. Now, I also do intuitive readings where we get to check on your soul path